cried the sparrow.
You're listening to the Sailing into Oblivion podcast, where we sit down with everyday people who do extraordinary things. I'm your host, Jerome Rand.
Welcome to another day aboard the Mighty Sparrow as she slings her way south, humming along currently at about 6.7 to 7.6, oddly enough. Knots. We are absolutely crushing it on a perfect beam reach, 12 knots, not a white cap to be seen, 3 golden white sails. I say golden because the sunrise is, as we speak, illuminating our lovely atmosphere into just a oil painting of excellence, if you will. Wow, I've had my coffee this morning. Today it's just a regular old Taster's Choice Nescafe instant coffee. It's delicious. It gets the job done and it's convenient. Oh my goodness. It's got a bite. It's not too mean if you don't put too much of it in there, but it really... Oh, wow. There goes the speaker. Wow, that is one incredible. I gotta take one look at it. Wow. Oh, it's beautiful. Oh, it's erupting. Woo. Dang, that's crazy. Luckily, I can see it through the porthole. So, chances are in a few minutes I'm going to have to put the shade up so I don't get blinded by it. But, yeah, we're on day 8 out here. And I think on the last podcast that I put out a day or two ago, maybe I said it was day 5. I was wrong about that. It was day 6. That happens. You know, the logbook really comes in handy for taking account of all that in a very precise, professional manner. So that when my brain goes a little haywire, goes a little loopy-doopy out here, I still have something that I can count on as far as like not losing it and not getting a little too involved in just Mother Nature and stars and waves, man. It's pretty cool. I yesterday didn't put out a show. Barely even spoke an audible word. Every once in a while, believe it or not, that happens. I get these quiet days, I call them out here. Now, normally, I do a bit of talking to myself, to the boat, to the world around me when I'm out here alone. And then every once in a while, I get a day where it seems much more like silence is appropriate. And you're just letting your brain take it all in, low-level input, no dopamine hits, or at least no dopamine rush. I would say it's more of just a slow trickle of amazement, if you will, at both the sea, the sky, and the stars. And the ability of a sailboat, I think, has always amazed me, how they just cut through the water, how the power of the wind can push 11 tons of water out of the way as we slip narrowly silent through the great ocean. And we didn't see anybody until last night around 1 in the morning when our wind shift happened. It's been a lonely road out here because everybody else is going from Hatteras to Bermuda, then down, or Hatteras down to the Bahamas straight. I'm kind of out here in the middle on my own, and that's fine by me. So currently, just to do a little check-in as far as our position and all of that, we are, let's see, the easiest way to say it is we're still only 200 miles, oh no, okay. We're about 230 miles just south of west of Bermuda, which puts us about 650 miles as the crow flies from Florida, our destination. we're probably going to do our old favorite little training route of going around the Abacos and Great Grand Bahama Island. So that cut, or that point that we have to get to south of the Abacos, is 585 miles. So, for lack of a better term, we're out here in the middle somewhere of the Bermuda Triangle. Ooh, yep, ooky spooky out here. A lot of weird stuff happens out on this place. You start seeing weird orbs and things flying around in the air. Time ceases to have meaning. Every once in a while, my watch runs backwards. That's a weird one. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. None of that. Although the orbs, I always see those. That's just commonplace. And I'm sure there's some sort of scientific explanation for these. Every once in a while, you get these clusters of very bright, brighter than Venus, sort of, they brighten up, and then they dim out in about a 10-second interval. And there's usually 3 or 4 of them in one area of the sky doing it. And they're not moving anywhere. Their position is staying the same. And sometimes it's like an hour-long thing, and then, boom, they're gone. So, who knows? Who knows? I still have yet to see a unidentified submerged object. Supposedly those are out here, but I don't know. I don't spend a huge amount of time on deck, like just looking at the sea. The sky really drags my attention away from that quite often. But that's where we are, day 8. Like I said, we've traveled far. We've seen a lot out here already. It's crazy. But to get back to the quiet day, I don't know. It's something I noticed that would happen on the big trip around the world every once in a while, where it was just like quiet. Just let's just stay quiet. Whether it's what the wind is doing or how the boat is sailing. Yesterday, all day, we were hard on the wind. Very, very light breeze, so it was reasonably comfortable. We weren't heading in. We were about 45 degrees off of the intended track. So we were headed, a little bit east of south, which was not great. But we were still sailing, All things are relative. If you can get the boat to be moving and stable compared to rolling or, the worst, motoring, then you're in a pretty happy place, If you're not making it right towards your destination, I haven't ever prioritized that on a trip like this unless I am absolutely under the gun to get somewhere. And although I do want to make it for Thanksgiving, it's going to be so close that it's not something that if I try and push the boat and race and do all that sort of stuff, it's gonna affect the trip quite a bit. And there's a big chance that I still won't make it. And it's kind of like, well, then you're just a double loser. You don't make it, and you don't have any fun on your trip. What's the point in that? So we're gonna go with the flow. We're gonna see what Mother Nature provides as far as a speedy second half of this voyage. But yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. You get these sort of. I'm already in a very low level input state of mind, almost meditative when I'm out here. It's only interrupted by the quick update, with the throwing the Starlink on at about 8 in the morning. Oh man, I gotta put that shade up. Jeez Louise, the sun is beaming at me. Golly. It's like it's got a beeline right for my face. My precious sight. There we go. Homemade. Little shade. Do your job. Oh, there we go. And we are once more in the quiet. Lovely. Another sip of the old go-go juice. Oh, delicious. The slurps are back due to popular demand. I don't know. People wanted them. They were like, you can't get rid of that. Too used to it. Sorry to everybody who doesn't enjoy that. But I'm going to find a happy medium, This podcast is, it's not a democracy, I suppose, but I listen. I care. So I want to make sure make sure everybody. Maybe I'll just do a slurp warning every time I'm about to take a thing. You can turn down the volume on your headphones. We're in a bit of a goofy, fun mood this morning. We got a lot of sleep last night. It was intermittent. We were woken up twice, I think, to do some checks as the shift came. But yeah, it's put me in a pretty good mood. But yeah, yesterday was real thoughtful. It's an interesting thing because when I'm on land, a lot of times I get pretty wrapped up in all the scheduling, all of the networking, all the friends and the family, and also all of the content, just devouring like podcasts in my ears, videos in my eyes, looking at trying to upload my content, seeing other people's stuff, which I don't see all the time, but every once in a while it leaks in there. And got to tell you, it makes sometimes my brain just feel absolutely scrambled. Like I think it's much harder to lie down and quiet your mind and just be like, all right, it's sleep time. Let's just drift off in a nice happy thought. When you're really mitigating the usage of that and just screens and content in general when it's coming at you constantly. And I know it's kind of ironic that I'm talking about this on a podcast, which is content, but hey, take it or leave it. It's one of those things where, yeah, my brain, I have to study my brain quite a bit from an amateur perspective, but a very personal one as well, because I get a lot of time in my head out here. And this trip has been very, very different in that I have not been listening to podcasts and audiobooks very much at all. I would say 90% less than I normally would on a trip, and it's been doing wonders for my brain and my thought process. And I've just been listening to music or listening to the waves in the sea. And I think by doing that and sort of intentionally practicing kind of keeping the brain toned down a little, it's made for a bit more enjoyable and a bit more thoughtful trip in a way. And it's something where when I experience this out at sea, my first thought is, well, how do I take this back to land? How do I make sure that I don't get so scrambled and screwed up dealing with everyday life and all that's coming at us, that the only way I can find this again is by hopping on Sparrow and weathering a gale and getting back out on the ocean blue, which I intend to do anyway, a few times over the winter at least. But I'd like to be able to find this lovely mental state back home. And I think, honestly, that's all it is really becoming a bit more regimented, learning again from another thing that we do out here as sailors is we have a very kind of regimented schedule of certain little things. So there's little time slots where we have to do what we have to do, and that's when your brain has to go into like full turbo, full throttle mode. All right, you're there, you're going for it. For me out here, it's essentially the biggest example of that is the 8 a.m. check-in. Like, fire up the Starlink, get connected, check this, check email, check that, all that sort of stuff. And it lasts about a half an hour, I'd say, and then I cut it off. And, unless I absolutely had to keep it on and keep drilling in some more things, everything can kind of wait until I'm back on land. But even that, saying that out loud, that might be a bit of a mistake too. I don't know. Because then I'm just letting things pile up but regardless, a much more low-level form of that on a boat is, just doing the logbook and doing the daily check. In the morning when I check over the entire boat, that has to be pretty focused, pretty intentional, and making sure everything's all sorted. So that happens every single day. And then once that's done, my brain kind of calms down again a little bit, and becomes a little more enjoyable and a little less scrambled, if you will. Oh, I forgot to do the trigger warning there. I slurped. Sorry. And yeah, I don't know. So again, it's kind of learning these lessons from the sea and then bringing them out. I mean, like today, we're jumping back in finally. I should have started this 2 days ago, but I didn't. Is practicing up again on the celestial navigation, because that's one of the things that we're going to have to impart on young Oliver and make sure he at least has some semblance of how to do it. So if he has catastrophic electrical failure on his vessel while he's deep down in the Southern Ocean or trying to cross the Pacific to get back home, he doesn't run aground on some island, but he can actually pinpoint his position within a mile or two just by looking at the sun a couple of times a day. So got to get back up to scratch on that. So I'll be doing those for the rest of the trip. And what I'm going to try and do is work out a nice little easy worksheet that makes it very simple, very explanatory of, okay, so this is the number you get from here. This is what you do here, blah, 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 blah. I don't know. It's a toughie because if you don't practice it, you forget it. And I practice it just about every time I come out here, but there's enough time in between that I do forget it, and I have to rework it all, and it'll take a day or two before I get a decent fix, but we'll see. Who knows? Maybe I'll hop right back into it. So that's kind of a fun little thing, and a good exercise for the brain. The other content, and I don't know. I've debated this a few times, whether or not books are just an old school form of content. I don't know. I think there's two different categories with it, where to read, you are actively, I believe, exercising your brain. You're reading things, you're imagining these things. When you're looking at regular content or modern day content, i.e. videos or social media stuff, that's doing all that for you so that you can kind of just space out in a way and accept all this information. At least, again, this is solely just how I feel about it. So it's just food for thought, if you will. But yeah, I mean, music and reading have been the primary functions out here on this trip. And then just being in absolute awe of every sunrise, sunset. Last night, the stars were absolutely amazing. I got up at one point. There were clouds on the horizon to the west. I was kind of like, all grumbly. So I went down, hit the bunk for a while, slept for an hour or two, and then popped back up, and boom, bright, full sky, not a cloud to be seen. And I was like, oh, let's make some coffee. Got comfy in my beanbag chair. Must have been up there for at least 2 hours, just laying back, Dodger down, full sky, constellations up the wazoo. Oh man, it was just breathtaking. I even have the self-stabilizing binoculars, and man, when you look at the Milky Way, even through just regular binoculars, holy cow! I mean, it's a pincushion of stars. All that kind of milky white is just billions and billions of stars. It's so crazy. You can see so many more of them just with the binoculars. And as the boat moves, it sort of tracks around the sky, and oh man, just absolutely something to behold, that is for sure. And I don't know, I always go back to that scene in Joe versus Volcano where he's on that raft and the moon comes up, and he's just delirious from exposure and dehydration and sun poisoning and heat exhaustion. And then the moon rises, and he's just like, it takes him like a minute to stand up. And this giant moon superimposed going up, and he just like raises his hand, and he's like, I forgot how big. And it is. It's one of those things where, man, when you see the full sky, nothing on the horizon, it's astounding how big that is and how beautiful. And you just take it in. Wow, it is something. I was very, very blessed last night to see all that. Slurp warning. Delicious. All right, let's see if we got any ships on the horizon. No, we do not. Alone, still out here. Yeah, we do have some work to do today, though. I gotta do an oil change. Still, I'm pretty sure I gotta change the injector pump on this boat. I have a feeling that we are still getting some diesel into our oil, which is not a good thing. And even though I think it's been happening for quite some time, it seems to be back in a bigger way. And when I check the oil level, it seems to be rising, which is not normally how that goes. And it's far less viscous, if that's the right word. I'm thinking, in my head, viscous means thicker. So the more viscous, the thicker a liquid will appear. I could be backwards on that. I'm not really sure. But yeah, so we're going to have to do that one today because we are going to get becalmed, I think, tomorrow in the wee hours of the morning. And we do need to keep this ball rolling because we've got another round of west-southwest winds that we're going to have to battle. And they're going to be up in the 20 knot range further north, and they'll be in the 10 knot range, which is far more manageable for what we're trying to do further south. So I'm trying to get further south, stay in those so I can keep all the sails up and stay real close on the wind without bashing through a building sea state. And if I can do that, then we can keep our track going south so that when it does do its flip-flop to the northwest, we can ride or die straight towards the Bahamas. So it's looking like that's going to be a good trajectory for us. I've never used any of the routing software on any of these programs. I just like to kind of do it myself. It's kind of like a game of chess or a game of billiards, if you will. Plotting and planning my next move, trying to think 2 or 3 wind shifts ahead where I'll be. And sometimes I get it right, sometimes I don't. But I most assuredly don't want some computer to tell me what they think is the best route and then just follow along. Like, I don't want to just follow the path. You cut your own path. It's a great line out of an awesome movie called The Way, Way Back. And the kid's playing Pac-Man, or he takes over the other guy's Pac-Man. I can't remember the actor's name, but he's phenomenal. It's like Sam something or other. But either way, the kid's like, well, there's a pattern to that game. And he's like, cut your own path. Which is true. Hey, yeah, sure, there's a pattern you can follow. If that's all you want to do. It's about the journey, man, not the destination. Not to get too like, whoa, man. Oh. But yeah, that's my day today. Mostly, though, we're going to kick back. We're going to juice up. Finally, we're on a really good point of sale for the solar panels to get full juice today, which I'm looking forward to. We turned our fridge down. We got to crack into the second pound of bacon for our monumental feast this morning. And that's going to empty our freezer. Nothing else needs to stay frozen. I do have this little turkey dinner thing, frozen turkey dinner, just in case I was still out here for Thanksgiving, but I think I'm going to let that one thaw and eat that tonight. That way, I can tone down the fridge a little bit, less power usage there, and we can see. I don't know. I'm having trouble getting. I'm having trouble getting the power in the battery bank up above 13.2, and I don't like that. I should be seeing 14 out of that sucker at peak sun. It has been very hard though when you're headed south and it's this time of the year that sun is so far south of you and you're just not getting good angle or anything. We'll get an awesome angle when we're headed west So I fully expect to get full juice because we got a 220 watt solar panel on the aft. So we should be getting plenty of power, never ever having to think about running that engine to top it up. But hey, it's the ocean. Mother Nature throws a lot of curveballs your way. You just got to be ready to catch them. Get flexible. Be able to move and adapt. That's the real key. And speaking of that, I got to adapt to one sore core. I was doing these sit-up things. I forgot that when you do your first round of those, watch out, world, because you're going to feel it. So now, normally I lean up against a lot of things with the rolling of the boat. When I do that now, it's a little bit painful. I'll tell you that much. It ain't easy. It's like, ooh, ah. So we're going to continue on with it, though, because it does feel good, and it prods me forward, gives me that momentum that I'm looking for. You know, that little remembering, that little reminder of, hey, you put in a little work here, let's keep it going, because you know you got that goal. It's beach season down in Florida. We got to get ripped. It only takes 5 days to get ripped, right? Yeah, I don't think so. You're dreaming, bud. This is going to be a multi-month process. It's going to be literally, I'm thinking beach season 2026, you know, summertime. That's when, if I keep on this current path, which I fully intend to do, that's when I will be able to actually see the results and get off, or at least back away a little further from the slippery slope of being a middle-aged man getting slowly decomposing in his skin. It's just something that happens, and I've been able to fight it for most of my life, but every once in a while I just fall off the rails. And this year, though, has been a huge success in many facets of my life, that has been a major failure. So something to work on, something to keep pushing forward. We all have those things, you know. I think it's always worth doing a sort of self-test where you're sort of like, okay, so what's going good, what's going bad? And again, that's one of the beauties of coming out here and keeping the mind a little quiet, is you have time for that introspective, a good introspective, not a bad nightmare scenario, but something that, and I truly do believe, though, when your brain is not as scrambled as it normally is due to high input, I think you're able to handle self-criticisms and self-doubt and all those bad things that we don't like a little bit easier, because I think your brain functions just a little slower. I don't know. Who knew? Jerome, the neuroscientist over here. Whoa. Again, these are all just things that bop around in my brain, and I like to think they work because if you tell yourself something long enough, it becomes true, I guess, right? That is what they say. So other than that, I think we just have a quick little new segment coming up called Know Your Constellation. Doot, 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 doot. Okay, so the one that I want to hit up today is kind of a cool one that we see again in the Northern Hemisphere, and that is the summer triangle. So it is a right triangle, and it's composed of 3 pretty darn bright skies. Now, in the summer, you're going to see it way up, about 45 degrees in the sky, and then in the winter, I think it goes down to just about 10 degrees or so above the horizon. Now, the 3 stars that make up this beautiful big old right triangle are Vega, we've got Deneb, and then we've got Altar. And essentially those are 3 different constellations, which I'll just mention, but we're not going to get into today. Vega is in Lyra, which is the harp of Hermes, I believe. And then Altar is the head of the eagle constellation. And then Deneb is the tail of the swan, which I believe is one of Zeus's disguises so that he can go out and hunt down the ladies. He was a bit of a hound, I'll tell you that much, at least as far as the Greek mythology comes in. But so you have these three constellations, but these three stars, Vega, Altar, and Deneb, are the three brightest of those constellations, and they form this lovely summer triangle that you see up in the sky. And very, very cool. Once you see it, it's one of those constellations, once you see it, you can't unsee it. So ye be warned. I thought about this long ago when I first started studying a lot of these constellations. There was a time in my life where I looked up and I knew the Big Dipper, maybe I knew Orion, but that was about it. The rest of them were just a big mystery of dots in the sky, and they were beautiful and wondrous and full of mystery. Once I started to really see all these constellations and recognize them, I couldn't unsee them. And the sky became less of a mystery and more of a map. I don't know if you want that in your life. I don't know if I prefer one over the other, to tell you the truth. Still judgments out on that, but it's too late for me. I made the mistake. I chased the dragon, if you will, and I got what I want. So ye be warned right there. But yeah, Summer Triangle, it's a pretty cool one to look out for. And yeah, the Vega is probably the brightest of the three, and you see that one. Man, it is absolutely a stunner. And yeah, it just gives you another little piece of the puzzle. Short and sweet, home to eat. All right, thank you all so much for listening to this update, day 8 on the voyage. Approximately 4 or 5 days left, I think, if we're lucky. Winds look like they're going to be good. I'm having a blast. Got some work to do today, but other than that, hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful upcoming Thanksgiving week. Till next time.